Joe, how is it that the plan for every show is one pitcher, but like it never even comes close to just being one pitcher?
No, it's always more. Welcome to Saints on Tap. I'm Joe Simeone. He's John Wiener.
Saints on tap.
Let's pour it up.
First pour right here, man. I'm ready to drink some beer.
Yeah, man, I can't wait.
It's been a long week after the same thing. I really should have been drinking since Drew Brees and them got done.
What do we got here, John? What are we drinking?
Oh, Yingling Light, 99 calories, America's oldest brewery, tastes the way beer's supposed to, all that good stuff, man. What I like about Yingling is they taste good, but you can actually drink a lot of them. Like, it's not like piss water, you know what I mean? Like, It's a real beer, but you can actually drink a lot. That's what we're about to do, right?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm trying to stay in shape, so I'm glad it's only, 99 calories. Never know if they might need another QB out there, so.
Yeah, can I donate my hand to Drew Brees? So our first pour, like, obviously, for the first time in my entire pretty much Saints life, post Aaron Brooks, we're gonna have to account for what it's like without Drew Brees. And like I tell you what, as a Mississippi State fan, also like watching Garrett Trader, they've got a backup in, and now watching it's gonna be some long weekends ahead, man. You talk about on tap, I'm like shit.
Yeah, it's gonna be rough, but I think Teddy Bridgewater will be able to keep the ship afloat.
He was
for a little
terrible last week. You broke down the film yourself. He wasn't good.
He wasn't yet. No,
you told me. You were the one who told me. It was like, oh, they didn't block, and like you looked at the tape. No, like he held the ball way too long.
Yeah.
Like he didn't make good decisions. He wasn't accurate.
But he wasn't ready. He wasn't expecting to go in, and neither were the coaching staff. Like nobody expected that to happen. And even I felt like when Brees went out, there was almost like this hope that maybe he'll come back in for a little bit. And then
I honestly thought when Brees went out, it was like let's bail ship and like get out of town.
Right.
Like I was really surprised by how little answers they had. How like totally off the rails it was.
Yeah.
Like I made an analogy that even for this online show, I don't think I can say in terms of getting like they were couple hours. Like that's really what happened to the Saints last week. I can act like that. It was that bad, man. It was that bad. It was like a visceral kind of beatdown.
Yikes, that is one way
Have I had too much beer already?
I think so, maybe.
No, but seriously, like, weren't you surprised? And, like, that's my question going forward is, okay, like, now we're going to see what Sean Payton's scheme is about. Is the offensive line really great? Is Michael Thomas this true number one wide receiver? Well, all of that, other than Kamara, who we know is a stud, like, I think all of that's about to get put to the test, including the defense.
Yeah, everything's in question right now, and it's going to take a full team effort to win for the next couple of weeks. It's not going to be on Teddy Bridgewater because, as we all know, he's no Drew Brees.
Right.
So it's going to take a lot of game planning for Sean Payton to make him look better than he really is. You know, that Sean McVay route with Jared Goff. Jared Goff might not be the best, but
why are we talking about Teddy Bridgewater so much? Like, here you got Taysom Hill. They make this big fuss to just run this guy out there at quarterback anytime in the game. Second 5, 30-yard line, Hall of Famer. Yeah, let's put Drew Brees out at wide receiver. Let's voluntarily take him out of the backfield and put him at wide receiver and put Taysom Hill in quarterback. And then last week, all of a sudden, when you really need the guy, when you need another quarterback, nowhere to be found. People who watched the show last week, we saw like we called that. Like we were all over it in terms of like Aaron Donald potentially hurting Drew Brees, like worrying that Brees would get hurt in that game. But also the other shout out is when you really put it in perspective with Brees, since 2006, he's missed one game. Yeah. Due to injury. I mean, what a remarkable stretch. And the Saints have been fortunate. No other team, Brady missed, Roethlisberger missed, Aaron Rodgers missed. You name the quarterback other than Drew Brees. The Saints haven't had to deal with it.
No, they haven't. And it's a weird position to be on. And it kind of leaves you a little uneasy because obviously when you lose somebody of that caliber, it's never easy to just bounce right back from.
Yeah.
I am happy with the way that the team has bounced back in. I mean, what are they going to say in pressers besides, we're excited to move forward. But seriously.
We're going to stink with it.
Exactly. But seriously, I think they are going to rally around Teddy Bridgewater. This is a team who wants to win, and they know it. Like, this is their time.
It's Bridgewater's time.
Yeah.
It's certainly Teddy Bridgewater's time. It's why he stayed here. And it's also his shot to start somewhere else.
Exactly. That was my exact point. This is his chance to really prove to the league that forget about my knee, what happened. I'm still here to play football. Like, somebody's got to give him a shot after this, hopefully.
I think the other talking point, if you talk about a first pour this week for Saints fans especially, and give Sean Payton and the team credit that once again, they were kind of like, it's not about the call. A third straight week, the Saints really came out on the bad end of a pivotal call, But the second straight time this year, Joe, you didn't miss the call. You didn't know the rule.
Yeah.
The rule up itself. It's one thing in pass interference, you didn't call it. But last week with the 10-second runoff and this past week when they blow a play dead, when everything that the NFL put in with that rule said, don't blow the play dead so we avoid this situation that exactly ended up to the Saints. Like, what you got to do, man?
I'm very on and off with this call because on one hand, yeah, it's a horrible call. It's unbelievable that it happened in this game of all games because all of the referees should have wanted to call it an absolute perfect game.
I know.
At the same time, after the NFC Championship game, Saints fans, all of us, we're looking for these calls now. We're looking.
Yeah, and I'm not. That's what I mean. You know that. Like, I was on record last week, like, miss me with all the pass interference, like, a bad call, but like focusing on that call still, even this season. But at a certain point, when it's a rule incompetence interpretation,
I hear you, but listen, the refs have been getting just worse and worse. It's not just the Saints, all over the league. So,
well, look, that's our first pour. Let's get into a on tap right here. We pour up another Ying. Appreciate everybody watching. Get us on Bash Brothers Media, wherever we end up putting the show after we get done pounding the pitcher. Drinking a little Yingling Light. He's Joe Simeone. I'm John Wiener. And when you talk about the Seattle Seahawks and you look at the game this weekend, Seattle a 4.5-point favorite. Like, I'll just go on record. Like, I hate the Seahawks, man. Like, there's no team or fan base. Like,
you talk about bad memories.
Really annoys and brings up worse memories, like, other than the Cowboys. But my guy Dak Prescott, like, he's a Cowboy guy, so I can't hate the Cowboys like I used to. Like, other than New England, I don't think there's more animosity for any Saints fans than the Seahawks.
Yeah, I mean, you can just still get vivid flashbacks of Marshawn Lynch just
the beast
terrorizing.
And then 2 years later, in 2011, you know what I mean, when the Saints had a really, really good football team, and went to Seattle and lost, and they just locked down Breeze and that whole deal. And then with the 12th man, we were really proud of the Superdome and the decibel levels in there and all this 12th man. Seattle was just so obnoxious in that run, man.
Yeah.
You know.
No, trust me, I do, yeah. Seattle was definitely obnoxious, and they're still a really formidable team. This is going to be an interesting matchup.
Let me ask you, how close are they? Like, is this that same defense that you used to fear? I know the Legion of Boom is gone, but that front seven, especially now with Clowney, they're pretty damn good.
It's kind of funny, you were so afraid of Seattle's secondary back then with the Legion of Boom. You didn't want to pass on them, but now you're petrified of that front seven now with Clowney, D. Ford, and Bobby Wagner,
and
KJ Wright.
KJ Wright, Mississippi guy,
Yeah, it's...
Are they the two most underrated linebackers in the league?
No,
maybe
without a doubt.
Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright. They put in so much work for so long up there in the Pacific Northwest, and nobody talks about either one of them.
No, it's very true.
Were they overshadowed by the Legion of Boom and all the press that they got?
I don't think there's any doubt about that.
I mean, KJ Wright's one of the best cover linebackers in the league. You talk about a matchup problem this week, Joe. For a quarterback without a receiver to push the ball downfield. That's what I'm telling you about Michael Thomas. Seattle's not going to go into this game and think one time about, we got to stop Michael Thomas. He can't push the ball down the field anyways. You know what I mean? And if Bridgewater can't fit into those windows, they're not worried about Michael Thomas. Everything's going to be in that intermediate, in that 5, 7, 10 yards, and that's a bad place to battle Seattle.
Yeah, you definitely, Ted Ginn is your deep threat, but yeah, you're right. Michael Thomas isn't really just a vertical threat. It'll be interesting to see what they do to scheme him open because he was actually open a lot underneath last week, but against these linebackers, that's going to be a much tougher ask. And this offensive line, talk about going up against some serious defensive lines. You go from the Texans to the Rams, now to the Seahawks. They can't catch a break right now.
That's what I'm saying in the NFL, though. Every week you see freakish defensive linemen. They're the most freakish humans walking the planet.
No, they are.
If Jadeveon Clowney walked in that door, you would think he was sent from Mars. You know what I mean? In terms of size, strength, and speed, the defensive line, they're the most freakish humans walking the planet. And you got Will Clapp. on the other side trying to block him. You got 300-pounders pulling out a Golden Corral. You know what I mean? It's not like that simple, but the disparity between offensive linemen and the defensive lines you have to block every week in the league is massive. Man.
Yeah, it's just growing and growing as the emphasis keeps going to that defensive line.
And that's why you look around and there's 10 quarterbacks hurt, man. Nobody can block anybody.
But you want to talk about how good the Seahawks defensive line is. How about this defensive line of the Saints that's been absolutely crushing it the last couple of weeks? And you want to talk about a weak offensive line.
Yeah, let's cheers to that. Let's cheers to Cam Jordan and Trey Hendrickson and that Saints defensive line.
I think that they're going to eat this week. It's going to be a really, really great week for this defensive line. And if there's a week...
You do.
If there's a week to step up and, like, be the guys that take over a game, this is the week. A weak offensive line in the Seattle Seahawks. Of course, Russell Wilson, getting him down is always a challenge, no matter how quickly you get into the backfield.
I'm so, like, Russell Wilson's not as good as people, but you just look at the numbers and look what he does week in, week out, man. He's a stud. Do we have a stout? Are we trying to do that?
Yeah, sure. My stout.
It was like one of these plans. I don't know. We're just at the table drinking beer now. But like, who's your, when you talk about stouts, you know, we're drinking Yingling Light. But like, who's the one guy that you really worry about? Like last week we were on point. You had Aaron Donald. He broke Drew Brees' hand. I had Brandon Cooks, and he torched him.
I'm gonna go with a duo here. I'm gonna kind of break the rules a little bit, but I'm gonna go with Chris Carson and Penny, Rashad Penny.
The running backs.
Right. If you can stop those running backs, you limit that Seattle offense a ton, and that is going to be the most important thing for this defense.
Yeah.
Really stopping that run game.
Yeah, and obviously the play action threat with the local kid DK Metcalf going downfield. But for me, it's going to go back to those two guys. It's the linebackers, Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright. I think for the Saints to have any success with this offense, especially with Bridgewater, it's going to have to be the Kamara in the pass game. It's intermediate to Michael Thomas and stuff, and those guys are so good. They're just going to box everything up.
Well, let's finish these.
I know
you got a little work to do. I'm doing all right. You got a little work here.
So what's the deal, right? We can't move on to this segment until we finish the beer. And when we finish the beer, we move on to the next one? I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
You kind of need to... I don't know what this guy's doing.
I mean, I'm finishing. I know, right? It's like, what are we doing here? I was all ready to drink
He's
beer.
a couple years out of college. It's fine. You do.
It's not all the way.
Are we gonna go with chugging the whole thing? I say chug half.
No.
Chug half.
No. We're drinking enough beer as it is.
Okay.
We don't need to chug the entire beer.
Now that we've established that during the game, that's what we're gonna do.
Okay.
We're gonna do the offense and Michael Thomas. So, do you believe in Michael Thomas going forward, or do you a little wary with Teddy Bridgewater at the helm?
No, I'm gonna sip.
Why are you gonna sip?
On Michael Thomas. Because I said this before Drew Brees got hurt. Before Drew Brees got hurt, I said Michael Thomas, as good as he is in the Saints offense, is not an elite wide receiver. Elite wide receivers make you game plan for them. Elite wide receivers can beat you by themselves. Julio Jones can do it. Odell Beckham Jr. can do it. Hopkins can probably do it. Antonio Brown can probably do it. Michael Thomas cannot. Marcus Colston, a great wide receiver. Michael Thomas is like a better version of Marcus Colston. Neither of those guys are elite wide receivers without number 9 at quarterback. You're going to see going forward like how much Michael Thomas means based on how much the defense has to plan for him. I don't think he helps Teddy Bridgewater out a lot.
I cannot wait to put the gif of just wrong right here. I can't wait.
Are you going to do the 45 gif too, or maybe do some different ones?
We're gonna see. But I am ready to chug.
You're chugging on Michael Thomas? Like, he's one of the best pass catchers in the game because Brees puts it right there. But he's not going to beat double teams. He's not going to beat you over the top.
You're wrong.
Okay. I hope I'm wrong.
Listen,
but tell
Michael
me
Thomas,
why.
because, yeah, maybe he's not the deep threat or the over-the-top guy the entire game.
He's not a game breaker.
I disagree.
He's a possession receiver with the best quarterback in possession play in NFL history.
Possession receivers can be fantastic. They can be great. They can be game changers. Just because you're not a guy who beats you over the top doesn't mean that you're worthless.
No, it doesn't mean he's worthless.
I'm
not
putting words in your mouth.
I'm going to. But I'm not all in on this, and I think this is where we're going to see it. Like,
listen, when I was watching the game tape, Michael Thomas was open like 75% of the time, and Teddy Bridgewater was just not getting through his reads fast enough to get to him. He might take a hit. He might not put up the stats that I expect him to, like he would with Drew Brees. But I don't believe that's because Michael Thomas isn't getting open enough. I believe it's because Teddy Bridgewater isn't gonna be good enough to get him the ball. Michael Thomas himself was fantastic against the Rams. He was open 90%. I chugged.
You did? Did you really?
Yeah, I did a little
It
chug.
doesn't look like.
I
you
mean,
did
I went
a
from
big
like there to
chug.
there.
It looks like you did like a Michael Thomas chug, like 4 for 60 yards coming up this week. Have fun. Sit. Oh, whoa. Well done.
I'm gonna need a second though. I got a little like brain freeze going.
That
It was
was well
cold.
done. No, but do you see what I'm saying though? Like we're gonna find out exactly how, because the whole thing with Michael Thomas, right?
Sure.
When he signed a big contract, I'm like, is he the Saints' number one? Yes. Like, is he a top 4 or 5 receiver in the league? No. Like, you a lot of times can't separate the two, but like now we're gonna see like just how good Michael Thomas is and what he can do on his own without Breeze, who'd throw it in the freaking keyhole.
I get your point, but I think of Michael Thomas as still a top 5, top 10 wide receiver. I think he's a guy like DeAndre Hopkins before he had Deshaun Watson, was still a game breaker, a game changer.
Okay. All right,
Michael Thomas can catch everything. All Teddy Bridgewater needs to do is throw the ball his way. I don't know if Teddy Bridgewater will do that, but all he needs to do is throw it his way and he'll vacuum
we
it
can
up.
circle this. That's what I mean. Like, Thomas is a great pass catcher, but in terms of the overall receiver and being a game changer, being a game breaker, now where the Saints need somebody on the outside to take pressure off of Teddy Bridgewater, he's not that guy.
I'm just going to have to agree to disagree on
All right,
this
you
one.
ready for a bar bet? Now, I hope I'm wrong on this because it'll mean better be better for the Saints. And we can cue this up again next week. Michael Thomas, I'm going to say you can take over under either one.
Okay.
6 catches, 75 yards this week. Max. I'm taking the under on both of those.
I'll take the under on the receptions. I'll take the over on the yards.
So you think he's over 75 yards this week against Seattle? So you're telling me that's 5 catches for 90 yards for Michael Thomas? That's game-breaking stuff. That's what I mean.
I'm taking the over on both.
I'm taking the over on both.
I'm going to make it simple.
I hope
taking
I'm
the over on
wrong.
both.
I hope I'm wrong, man. I've seen this too much, though, man.
All right, last one. Let's make this quick.
Okay.
We're going to do Super Bowl. Do you still think that they are Super Bowl contenders?
For the purposes of this show, primarily, because we want to keep that optimism up. No, I do. If Breeze was out for the season, I'd say no. If they can, I'm going to chug all the way.
I'm going to join you in a second, but I'll let you go first.
If they can stay afloat, especially looking at the rest of the NFC South, I think 9-10 wins maybe can win the NFC South. And Falcons got a nice win last week. If they can stay afloat, as long as Drew Brees come back healthy, if they can get in the tournament, yeah, I'm chugging on the Saints as a Super Bowl team. It's all about when Brees comes back and can they stay afloat. And like 6 games, you look at the schedule, even if they're 3-5 when Brees comes back, I still think they can get into the playoffs at 9-7 and like make a run.
I'm right there with you. I still think they're a Super Bowl team, and I might get into that a little bit in a second, but I still fully believe in the Saints.
Appreciate everybody watching the show this week. We're excited about it. That was my last call last week. Was like, hey, Saints on Top is a great fucking show. Like, can't wait for it. Go ahead. I don't actually have a last call, so I'm gonna have to generate one. What do you got?
Okay. Well, glad you did your homework. All right, my last call is jumping straight from that Super Bowl conversation we just had is, pump the brakes on freaking out a little bit and pump the brakes on panic. Yeah, you got the Cowboys after the Seahawks. And then you got the Bucks, the Jags, you've got the Bears, and the Cardinals. And then you got a bye week, and then Drew Brees is back. Listen, the Bucks are a beatable team. The Jaguars, with a backup quarterback in Gardner Minshew, no matter how mean his stash is, they're a beatable team. So are the Cardinals.
Is like untouchable. You realize that, right? Like
Not allowed
Gardner
to
is
say
like
anything bad about
impervious to any criticism
Sure,
coming from anywhere. Minshew magic.
But my point is, Teddy Bridgewater can keep this team afloat. There are a lot of winnable games after the Cowboys. I think that you can come out of this at 500 or maybe even better than 500. I really have a lot of faith in this team to grind out some wins, and it's going to make them better moving forward to the playoffs. When you can grind out wins with a backup quarterback, once Drew Brees comes back, you're even more confident in yourself and what you can do. So end this division on top of that. Panthers look shaky.
Trash.
Buccaneers are nothing.
Extra trash.
And the Falcons, Matty choke. So.
Yeah, had a nice win over the Eagles last week. I mean, Julio's still a problem.
What was the score in that Super Bowl?
What, 28 to 3?
I think that was it.
It's, anytime we can get a 28 to 3 reference, let's cheers to that.
Last call.
I hate the Seahawks. I hate everything about them. The Pacific Northwest, this like aquamarine bird. Like, what is a Seahawk? Like the colors, teal and green. Like this idea of the stadium that it's like, oh, aerodynamically designed to amplify the noise and the 12th man. It's like, miss me with all of that, man. And there's some sore history in there because when the Saints really had it humming, 09, 10, 11, after the bounty year, and then 13, the Seahawks were that nemesis that really seemed to kind of have the Saints number a little bit because they took away all that seam stuff that the Saints did. But certainly the Beastquake, like everything about like Seattle. Not like the whole city, but like just the Seahawks. I'll say because I'm drunk now and I'm gonna like keep talking a little bit. Was there ever a bigger opportunity though for Sean Payton? Like when you talk about Tom Brady and Bill Belichick,
the moment to prove
how you can separate the two, and
Absolutely.
is Brady like has there been a bigger?
When Brady goes down, Belichick finds a way to keep winning.
That's what I point to.
Sean Payton has to find a way to keep winning.
When Brady went down, they ran Matt Castle in there and they went 11-5.
That's what I'm saying.
It was against the AFC East, which might as well be like Conference USA. You know what I mean? But like that's there's a lot on Sean Payton. I think in a different way than ever before. He's got an opportunity or a real challenge ahead.
Absolutely.
Last call.
I'm excited. We'll see you guys next week on Saints on Tap.
Down with the aquamarine birds.